Landmark cases at the Supreme Court are like Vin Scully calling a doubleheader. You know you're in for a long haul, but you savor every word of it. We're going to play some of the best bites from inside the High Court's oral arguments on gay marriage today, joined by our man at the court, Greg Stohr. Let's start with what was said by Justice Anthony Kennedy, who many consider to be the crucial swing vote in this particular case and on this issue.
One of the problems is when you think about these cases, you think about words or cases, and the word that keeps coming back to me in this case is millennia plus time. First of all, there has not been really time, so the respondents say, for the federal system to engage in this debate, the separate states. But on a larger scale, it was about the same time between Brown and Loving as between Lawrence and this case. It's about 10 years. And so there's time for the scholars and the commentators and the bar and the public to engage in it. But still 10 years is, I don't even know how to count the decimals when we talk about millennia. This definition has been with us for millennia. And it's very difficult for the court to say, oh, well, we know better.
Greg, Justice Kennedy is someone who people who are on the pro-gay marriage side have counted on as a safe vote, more or less, in this case. And there he was expressing what seems to be a pretty deep skepticism about changing the definition of the law changing the definition of marriage. Listening to him today, do you think Justice Kennedy is still a safe vote for gay marriage?
Well, yes, I think he is a highly likely vote for same-sex marriage based on what he's done in the past. He has written all three of the court's big gay rights decisions over the past 20 years. He was on the court over the last several months as it let more than a dozen states start same-sex marriage. And it would be a real shift for him to go back and say, no, I've changed my mind. I'm not going to be the champion of gay rights that I have been in the past.
Greg, let's move on to Socrates, also known as the Chief Justice, John Roberts, also closely watched. He had tough questions, as is often the case for both sides.
You say join in the institution. The argument on the other side is that they're seeking to redefine the institution. Every definition that I looked up prior to about a dozen years ago defined marriage as unity between a man and a woman as husband and wife. Obviously, if you succeed, that core definition will no longer be operable. Counsel, I'm not sure it's necessary to get into sexual orientation to resolve the case. I mean, if Sue loves Joe and Tom loves Joe, Sue can marry him and Tom can't. And the difference is based upon their different sex. Why isn't that a straightforward question of sexual discrimination?
So, Greg, there we heard the Chief Justice again questioning both sides somewhat skeptically. If you look at his history, you look at his temperament, you look at his desire often to have the court be less politicized, what's the argument that would say Justice Roberts would vote for more liberal law on same-sex marriage?
Well, unlike Justice Kennedy, Chief Justice Roberts actually devoted the vast majority of his questions towards being skeptical of same-sex marriage. So I don't think he's the same sort of likely vote. That said, he does care about the institution very deeply. If he's in the majority, it gives him a chance to write the opinion, perhaps shape it, perhaps keep it narrow. You did hear that last question about gender discrimination, which was a very interesting point from him. So he's not totally out of play for the same-sex marriage advocates, but he's going to be a much tougher get for them, and he would really be kind of a bonus vote that would give them a sixth vote in favor of same-sex marriage.
All right, so those are the only two guys who people think are really up in the air, but there are obviously opportunities for the other justices to talk. We want to listen to some sound from two of the ones who will vote in favor of liberalized same-sex marriage. First, Justice Ginsburg, and then Justice Sotomayor.
All of the incentives, all of the benefits that marriage affords would still be available. So you're not taking away anything from heterosexual couples. They would have the very same incentive to marry, all the benefits that come with marriage, that they do now.
How many married couples do fathers with the benefits or the requirements of marriage walk away from their children? And so it's not that the institution alone does it, and that without it, that father is going to stay in the marriage. He made a choice. I would say that it should be gender neutral. some mothers do the same thing. But my point is that I'm not sure how I get to the point that Justice Breyer is making. How does withholding marriage from one group, same-sex couples, increase the value to the other group?
Greg, you hear a lot of these arguments. Some of them are about technical matters or more abstract things. This is obviously a deeply personal thing and an emotional issue. Were the justices more emotional today in their colloquies with the lawyers than usual, or was it just a normal set of arguments?
In all honesty, they were less emotional than I might have expected. It was an argument that, given the stakes, you would have thought would have been very, very high energy. And there were some emotional moments, but a lot of it was, you sort of heard a little bit of a monotonous tone to some of those questions. There was some of that there, and there wasn't the fire. And then that may be because, from their standpoint, they see which way this is going, that they think that the past decisions strongly suggest this is going to be a 5-4 decision or maybe 6-3, favoring same-sex marriage, and maybe that's why there wasn't the energy. But it did not have the passion that I've seen even in cases even like healthcare.
Okay, let's take a quick listen now to someone representative of the other side ideologically, Justice Samuel Alito, who took aim at the pro-gay marriage arguments vociferously today.
It was well accepted within certain bounds. But did they have same-sex marriage in ancient Greece?
Yeah, I don't believe they had anything comparable to what we have, Your Honor. And we're talking about...
Well, they had marriage, didn't they?
Yeah, they had, yes.
And
they had some sort of marriage. And
they had same-sex relations, did they not?
Yes, and they also were able to...
People like Plato wrote in favor of that, did he not?
In favor of?
Same-sex, wrote approvingly of same-sex relationships, did he not?
I believe so, Your Honor.
So their limiting marriage to couples of the opposite sex was not based on prejudice against gay people, was it?
Greg, Justice Alito, Justice Scalia, Justice Thomas, we know how they're going to vote. Do you have a sense that they are resigned to the notion that they're about to lose?
There was that sense, I would say so. And one other point, just as I reheard those comments, one thing you did not hear in the courtroom today was you did not hear talk of moral disapproval of homosexuality. And in fact, you heard Justice Alito there talking about how it's been going on since at least ancient Greece. So that was, again, a bit of a different tone to the argument today.